Hey guys, admit that you still shudder at the memory of scary stories from your youth. Every kid has heard stories about maniacs, ghosts, and alien abductions. And all these stories are of course true, as they happen to no one, but to a friend of your cousin's girlfriend's friend. Isn't that proof enough? But before we start, subscribe to our channel, give us a like and post the video on social networks. Next, we'll tell you 19 reasons behind popular American urban legends. Bunny Man. Legend. Since the early 1970s, there have been rumors in the Washington, D.C. area that a man in a rabbit costume indiscriminately attacks strangers with an axe, usually under the Virginia overpass, now known as the Bunny Man Bridge. Reality. The legend is based on two officially recorded incidents in the town of Burke, Virginia, which occurred just before Halloween in 1970. In the first incident, a couple was parked in the area around midnight, and suddenly they heard someone walking near their car. Moments later, someone smashed the passenger window and a man in a bunny suit appeared in front of them and told them, "You are on private property and I have your license plate number." In their haste to leave, the couple discovered the axe on the floor of the car on the passenger side. The second incident occurred 10 days later. While walking around the property, a security guard approached an unfinished house and noticed a man dressed as a rabbit inside who began waving a long axe and yelling, "You are trespassing. If you don't get out of here, I'm going to bash your head in." After these incidents, dozens of reports of Rabbit Man sightings surfaced, but only 2 were confirmed. The Rabbit Man was never caught. Awakening in the morgue. Legend. A man is declared dead, a tag is hung on his leg, he is closed in a bag and placed in a cold box in the morgue. The person then wakes up in pitch darkness and realizes to their horror that they have been falsely declared dead. Reality. In 2011, an 80-year-old Los Angeles woman was pronounced dead due to cardiac arrest and placed in a morgue drawer. When funeral home workers arrived to claim her body, they found her lying face down. She was covered in cuts and bruises, her bag was half unzipped, and her nose was broken. None of these injuries were present when she entered the morgue. It is suspected that she inflicted all the wounds on herself after she regained consciousness, and the real cause of her death was frostbite and prolonged exposure to low temperatures. Buried alive. Legend. A very popular legend tells of a man who was buried alive intentionally, as torture or accidentally because he was thought to be dead. Reality. Purposeful, premature burial of the living was a tactic used by the Japanese and Germans during World War II. There have also been documented cases in the West of people being buried while still alive, or mistakenly recognized as dead. This was most often due to undeveloped methods of death notification and quick funerals, same or next day. Slender. Legend. A skinny, tall, long-armed man in a costume indiscriminately attacks children and adults. Reality. Unlike most of the other cases described here, this is a case of impersonation. In other words, the legend was not based on a real event, but quite the opposite, a real incident followed from the legend. In 2014, 2 12-year-old girls from Wisconsin, apparently believing that Slender was real, tried to placate him by killing another 12-year-old girl. They lured their victim into the woods and left her for dead with 19 stab wounds. The 12-year-old accused Morgan Jaser later said, "Strangely, I felt no remorse." Frozen woman. Legend. A woman faints outside in cold weather, freezes, then miraculously thaws and regains consciousness. Reality. In 1981, a 19-year-old girl from North Dakota named Jeanne Hilliard fainted outside in 22 degrees Celsius and froze to the point where she looked like a piece of meat from a deep freeze chamber. She was rushed to hospital. The girl's body was so frozen that her skin could not be pierced with a needle. But eventually she thawed, regained consciousness and made a full recovery. The doctors called it a miracle. The corpse under the bed. Legend. A motel guest notices an unbearable odor in his room and discovers a rotting corpse under his bed. Reality. The horror became legendary thanks to Quentin Tarantino's 4 Rooms, but you'd be surprised to find that it's not a sick fantasy of the director, but a real case, and not the only one. Consider. New Jersey in 1982 and 1999, Maryland in 1987, New York in 1988, Virginia in 1989, California in 1996, Missouri in 1993, and 2 cases in Florida in 1994. Officially, 9 such cases have been reported. Body at the bottom of the pool. Legend. Due to inattention or murky pool water, lifeguards and swimmers fail to notice a dead body lying at the bottom of a public pool. Reality. In 2011 in Massachusetts, a 9-year-old boy reported to lifeguards that a woman named Marie Joseph had gone underwater without ever surfacing. One lifeguard informed the boy that he was on a break and another assured him that they would check the pool in 1 to 2 minutes, but did not do so. People continued to swim in the murky pool water for 2 more days. It was 2 days later that the corpse of Marie Joseph was found at the bottom of the pool. Green Man. Legend. For the past several decades, it has been rumored in western Pennsylvania that late at night, a man known as the Green Man or Charlie without a face can be found on the street. Reality. Due to an electrical accident, Raymond Ray Robinson lost his eyes, nose, ear, and arm when he was only 8 years old. This disfigured him so much that he would only go out for walks late at night so people wouldn't scare him or laugh at him. His skin was so badly damaged by the accident that it was rumored to have a sickly green tint. While he may have unintentionally frightened those who encountered him late at night, he never attacked anyone, and the townspeople often intimidated and bullied him. A man wakes up and realizes his kidney has been stolen. Legend. A tourist visiting an exotic place strikes up a friendship with a stranger in a bar, returns to the hotel with him, then loses consciousness. He wakes up with a hellish pain in his side, the result of a stolen kidney, and a note advising him to go to the hospital if he wants to stay alive. Reality. In 2008, a kidney business was uncovered in India that operated along the lines described above. Gang members sought out poor people, made friends, and then spiked their drinks with sleeping pills. After the victim fell asleep, a kidney was removed and sold to the rich and needy. A corpse wrapped in a rug. Legend. People find a rolled-up carpet and discover a corpse inside. Reality. In 1984, 3 Columbia University students found a rug in Midtown Manhattan, brought it home, unwrapped it, and discovered the corpse of a black man inside with 2 bullet wounds to the head. A similar case occurred with a rolled-up gymnastics mat in Georgia in 2013. A severed penis in a pool drain. Legend. A man tries to masturbate with a pool drain and loses his manhood. Reality. Although he didn't lose his penis, a 33-year-old Florida man was found trying to rape a hotel pool drain in the middle of the night. The pool pump was immediately turned off, but the catcher's penis had become so swollen during his attempts to make love to the drain that it took 40 minutes to free him and rush him to hospital. Guillotine from an elevator door. Legend. When trying to get in or out of an elevator, the doors close, the person is trapped and loses their head. Reality. In 2014, a young mother, Olga Tolinina, was trapped between the doors of an old elevator and was decapitated in front of her 2-year-old son. Similar cases have occurred all over the world and all happened due to a faulty elevator. Halloween hangings. Legend. What others think is a Halloween decoration is actually a real hanged man. Reality. In 2005, a 42-year-old Denver woman hanged herself from a tree just before Halloween, but passersby thought it was just artistic decoration. In California in 2009, there was a passerby incident. The body of a suicidal man would have hung in a tree for days in the city's Central Park if at one point it hadn't fallen right onto the people sitting below. In Michigan in 2001, a teenager working at a haunted house accidentally hanged himself while trying to scare customers. Maggots in the brain. Legend. One day an insect enters a person's ear, lays eggs, and after a while maggots emerge and make a real hell in the victim's head. Reality. After a vacation in Peru in 2013, a British tourist began to hear scratching noises in her head, and one morning discovered a liquid that left a mark on her pillow. Doctors found a wriggling mass of maggots right in her ear, which could have worked its way into her brain if not for timely intervention. Halloween lollipop upgrade. Legend. A sadistic neighbor impregnates a child's lollipop with poison or places blades and needles in the treats. Reality. Despite the popularity of this legend, there is only one recorded case of a person intentionally poisoned by a Halloween lollipop. In 1974, a Texan named Ronald Clark O'Brien, hoping to make some extra money on his insurance policy, soaked his son Styx's candy with cyanide, killing him. Awakening during surgery. Legend. A patient regains consciousness during surgery, realizing to his horror that he is still unable to move or scream. Reality. During an autopsy performed in 2007 in Venezuela, 33-year-old Carlos Camejo woke up in unbearable pain as pathologists cut into his face. In 2005, during eyeball removal surgery, Carol Weicher regained consciousness but was still paralyzed and unable to notify doctors that she was awake. Mentally, I screamed as hard as I could. I thought I had to push the table away with every possible effort. I prayed. I did everything I could. I was willing to sell my soul to get off that table. There's a woman in your closet. Legend. This is a variant of a legend called "You Are Not Alone," in which the owner notices things in their home are going missing or changing their location. Reality. In 2008, a Japanese man who noticed that things in his apartment were out of place and food was often missing from the refrigerator installed a surveillance camera in his house. With the help of the video, he discovered that a 58-year-old homeless woman had been living in his closet, as it later turned out, for more than a year. The man calls in a prostitute, who turns out to be his daughter. Legend. This one is also a variation on a popular legend. There are also versions where the prostitute turns out to be a wife or other relative. Reality. In 2008, a Zimbabwean man named Titus Ncube ordered a prostitute to his motel room, and the girl who came on the call turned out to be his 20-year-old daughter. Congratulations! You now have AIDS. Legend. Ever since the AIDS epidemic began in the mid-1980s, there have been rumors of people approaching people in crowded clubs and giving them a small injection, then whispering in their ear that the victim is now a member of the AIDS Carriers Club. Reality. While there are several documented cases of such attacks in which people deliberately stabbed their victims in an attempt to infect them with HIV, the only recorded case where someone actually contracted AIDS and died occurred in Australia in 1990 when a prisoner stabbed a guard with a needle. The unfortunate man died of AIDS-related complications 7 years later. Guys, if you liked our video and you haven't subscribed to us yet, subscribe now and post the video on social networks. There will be a lot of interesting stuff in the next episodes. See you soon. Bye.